coming up on Network Africa. South Africa withdraws ambassador to Israel after soldiers in the Jewish state kill almost 60 protesters on Monday. Somalis paid tribute to one of their most accomplished diplomats, Abdulrahim Abe Farah, who died at the age of 98. Zimbabwe's public sector workers reject an improved salary offer of 15%. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker. We begin in South Africa, where the government has recalled its ambassador to Israel, Sisa Ngombane, with immediate effect following the ongoing violence in the Middle East. In a statement issued by the South African Department for International Relations and Cooperation, the government says it condemns in the strongest terms possible the latest attack of violent aggression carried out by Israeli armed forces along the Gaza border. South Africa holds the view that the Israeli Defense Force must withdraw from the Gaza Strip and bring to an end the violent and destructive incursions into Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, two major marches have been planned for Cape Town and Johannesburg on Tuesday in solidarity with Palestinians as they commemorate the events around the 1948 Palestine War. Well, let's get more on the story from a South African journalist, Bazukile Diko. Thanks for joining us on the program. Bazukile, how are ordinary South Africans reacting to the government's decision to withdraw its ambassador to Israel?
Millicent, I must say, overwhelmingly, many agree with the South African government's decision to withdraw the ambassador from Israel, with many identifying with the plight of the Palestinian people, considering our history and how we went through apartheid. And at this moment, it's one of those things where, of course, there are pockets of society that don't necessarily agree with that decision, with some having already come out to say the move was frivolous.
And we understand that Jews in South Africa have condemned the government's decision, saying Israel has the right to defend its own border and its own citizens. Are there fears that this decision could spark protests in South Africa?
Millicent, definitely there's no fear that it would spark protests as such. And you must keep in mind that the Jewish community is by a very small minority in the country. Whether or not they'll protest, only time will tell, but it's highly unlikely. What we are used to from the Jewish community is a strong voice, and they know how to use the media to communicate their feelings and other platforms to voice their discontent. What we have seen, as you mentioned in your intro, Millicent, is an immediate response from those who are in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And we saw what one might term as successful marches to the U.S. consulate in Pretoria today and also to Parliament. What we know is that every voice in this country is allowed to be heard, but it would seem that the South African government is quite certain of the decision they made and what informed it.
So what happens after this? Will there be a cutting of ties? What would the diplomatic relationship be going forward?
We saw the Department of International Relations and Cooperation Minister earlier today addressing the media as she had gone to Parliament to table the department's budget. During a press briefing after that, she told media that at this point, the decision they've made is what they can communicate with us. Anything further, they will let us know in due course. What they're saying at this moment is that it's quite possible that in addition to recalling the ambassador, that the embassy in Israel will be downscaled. They haven't indicated at this point that they would be asking the Israeli ambassador here in South Africa to go back home. So it's one thing that we're all watching quite keenly as we wait to see just how strong a message is South Africa willing to send to Israel over their dissatisfaction with the events of yesterday.
All right. Thank you so much, Bazikile Diko, joining us from South Africa. And August the 2nd has been set as a pre-trial conference date in the case against the senior pastor of Jesus Dominion Church in South Africa. Pastor Timothy Omotosho is facing a 63-count charge for alleged human trafficking, sexual assault, rape and racketeering.
Many postponements later, Pastor Timothy Omotosho once more calmly walked into the courtroom clutching a Bible. He stood in the dock with two of his co-accused, Zukiswa Sito, 28, and Lusanda Solani, 36, all women. The case against the third has now been withdrawn. Pastor Omotosho, whose wife Taiwo was present in court, stands accused of alleged human trafficking, sexual assault, rape and racketeering, all of 63 counts. The magistrate Tandeka Mashii granted a provisional withdrawal of a separate case of illegal immigration pending the outcome of the main case, for which a pre-trial conference date has been set. Outside the court, placard-carrying members of the embattled pastor's congregation sang protest songs demanding his release. Nigeria's Consul General Godwin Adama was in court as well and hopes for due process.
What I like to see done is that justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. And of course, it's sub judice. We may not be able to take it further than this, but at least we want to show our presence here so that they will know that, of course, we are interested in a matter that concerns our citizens.
Pastor Omotosho's co-accused are still out on bail, but he remains in custody 1 year after his dramatic arrest at the Port Elizabeth International Airport. His High Court application to overturn his bail refusal was unsuccessful. The case has now been transferred to our High Court here in Port Elizabeth, where a pre-trial conference date has been set for the 2nd of August 2018. From the Magistrates Court in Port Elizabeth, the Eastern Cape, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
One of Somalia's most accomplished diplomats has died at the age of 98. Abdurrahim Abi Farah, who was Somalia's ambassador to the United Nations from 1965 to 1972, passed away in his home in New York. He was born in Wales to a Somali family originally from Berbera, Somaliland. He was educated at Oxford University in England. One of his most prominent roles was as chair of the UN Special Committee Against Apartheid. He also headed Somalia's Foreign Affairs Ministry. Many have been paying tribute to the former ambassador to Ethiopia.